JB Jones, the other co-founder, is here upstairs. I'm sure you all saw her. If not, say hello when you do. I also hope you enjoyed our last panel. And if this is your first program of the day, well then, welcome, welcome. We have an incredible program for you. Jewelry's love affair with New York. Certainly, this is a topic that is very close to our heart. The panelists that will be joining us today know all about it, as they have businesses here in the city, and they are part of the creative force that makes the jewelry industry what it is. The moderator for today will be Amanda Gizzi, and the panelists would like to come out and join us on stage.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was going to be a grand.
No, let's give them a round of applause. Amanda Gizzi. First, I have to say thank you so much to Jewelers of America for being one of our sponsors this year. We would not be here if it wouldn't be for our sponsors. So thank you very much. I'm going to read Amanda's bio.
Embarrassing.
No, Amanda is the Director of Public Relations and Events for Jewelers of America, a nonprofit trader association that has been serving the fine jewelry marketplace since 1906. I think that deserves a round of applause. As a nationally recognized industry
I haven't been there since 1906.
As a nationally recognized industry spokesperson, Amanda appears regularly on television morning shows, is quoted in magazines, and is an authority on fine jewelry and watch trends. She also plans and executes all of GA's events, including the GEM Awards, the Oscars of the jewelry industry. She is a past recipient of the Women's Jewelry Association's Award for Excellence in Marketing Communications, and is the author of the biweekly column Amanda Style File on The National Jeweler. Thank you so much, Amanda, for being here, and enjoy, everyone.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to call on my panel one by one. I want you all to come out here together so you can make your way to the stage to my amazing panel, and I'll talk about them all together while they're here. So come on out, Severine, Tom, Lorraine, and Jennifer. So first of all, thank you to New York City Jewelry Week, and thank you all for coming out and being part of this incredible week that we have so gratefully put together by Bella and JB and the amazing team at New York City Jewelry Week, so thank you. I'm so delighted to be sitting here on this stage with these four talented individuals. I'm going to read a little bit about them, and then I'm going to turn the floor over. They can tell you more about their New York stories. But kicking off here with Jennifer Gandia to my left. Jennifer is the co-owner of Greenwich Street Jewelers, a graduate of FIT. She previously worked in marketing and public relations for luxury fashion and prestige cosmetic brands. In 2003, Jennifer entered her family business, and she leads the store's creative vision and marketing strategy, and has made the company a prominent destination for visionary jewelry designers and discerning clients. In 2022, they opened a new flagship boutique in New York City's Tribeca neighborhood, which if you haven't been, I strongly encourage you to go check it out. You'll see some pictures, and we'll talk about why it's important to New York. But that opened in 2022, and they were inducted into National Jewelers Retail Hall of Fame that year as well. In 2023, they won the GEM Award for Retail Excellence, which is huge. They had a big year, and they were In-Store Magazine's Coolest Store Award. So this is Jennifer. Lorraine West, sitting next to Jennifer. Lorraine West has always had an affinity for creating original art. As a wife, mother, and artisan, her handcrafted contemporary and fine jewelry pieces are inspired by love and a passion for connecting people on an intuitive and authentic level. As a self-taught craftswoman, Lorraine pays homage to her Caribbean roots, mixing bold and minimalist design sensibilities. Working with her hands comes naturally thanks to her mother, a baker, and her father, a carpenter. Welding and manipulating precious metals is what heals her soul. I love that. Her symbolic and geometric designs have been seen on stars from Zendaya to Beyonce, and Lorraine currently lives in Brooklyn with her son and husband. Welcome, Lorraine. Tom Heyman of Oscar Heyman. After working for 5 years at IBM as a system engineer, Tom made a drastic shift back to the jewelry world, and he joined his family's business, Oscar Heyman, 36 years ago. Tom combines his love of gems with his technical expertise to guide design, sales, and manufacturing at Oscar Heyman. Outside of work, Tom enjoys spending time outdoors with his family skiing, gardening, and this is my favorite part, caring for several backyard beehives. So welcome, Tom. And Severine Ferrari. Welcome, Severine. Severine is a Parisian in New York for 20 plus years. What does that make you, a Parisian New Yorker?
I don't know, we need to find a word.
We need a word.
Yeah, we need a word, yes.
After 20 years, you're a New Yorker now, sorry.
yes, I got
You're a
one.
New Yorker with a Parisian accent. Yeah, there you go. Creates captivating content for U.S. audiences. In 2006, she founded Engagement 101 to elevate proposals and empower women in ring choices. In 2018, she launched Propose 2, Reshaping Jewelry for Proposals. Her latest project is a documentary series, Romancing New York. How appropriate to be here, which started in August 2023, exploring love, jewelry, and the city's charm. Severine won WJA's Award for Excellence in the editorial category in 2017 and resides in Harlem with her husband, James, and 2 cats. Welcome, Severine.
And I think the word is Neuresian.
Oh, I love it. Trademarked by Jennifer Gandia. So as you can see, we have an incredible group of New Yorkers. And I think that this is what defines New York, is the different types of individuals who call New York home and who are inspired to create and to build something that is so substantial in this amazing city that we all live in. Or visit, for those of you visiting. Raise a hand, who lives in the city? Everybody here? Or who flew? All right, good. Welcome, my people. I have some pictures up on screen. What I'm going to do is I actually want to hear from these incredibly talented people one by one as they explain the pictures that they've submitted for you here today before we dive into some questions. So I'm going to kick it off with Jennifer Gandia. And she's probably going to have to turn around and look at the pictures, too, that as they pop up. So I forgot I had the clicker. I'm, like, waiting for somebody to do it for me. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. That's us. That's Jennifer. Striking, gorgeous woman. Photo number 1.
Photo number 1. So for those of you who don't know the story of Greenwich Street Jewelers, our store was started by my parents, who are there in the center of this photo, as Greenwich Jewelers in 1976. And actually, it's 20 years this year that I joined the business. I joined in 2003 and worked alongside my father. My sister joined a few years after I did, and so this picture was taken of us. I really love this photo of us. I treasure it. Before we changed the name of the store. So my parents came to the U.S. from Puerto Rico when they were young children from Puerto Rico. My father began learning metalsmithing and jewelry work in a trade school. Met my mother, who was a hairdresser. Sort of the rest is history. He went through apprenticeships, eventually opened his own booth on 47th Street, and then they decided to open up a small store. This is actually the second store. The first store was tiny, and our parents built the business on my father's jewelry work. So it was a lot of repair, custom, restyling, that kind of thing. My mother would tell you that in the beginning, when the store had no jewelry, she would just sell the things my father had made her. You know, she would make her something for her birthday, and she'd put it in the window. So anyhow, this is our family. And just a real quick thing about the name change, because, you know, our parents named the store Greenwich Jewelers because they were on Greenwich Street. And, you know, they thought that was a great name. And when Christina and I came in, we would, you know, be going out to events and things and telling people we're from Greenwich Jewelers. And then you'd be like, oh, what part of Connecticut are you? Oh, I'm from Greenwich. Or the amount of times that somebody referred to our store as being from Greenwich, Connecticut, obviously did not sit well with me. So in 2016, we changed the name to honor the place where the store was born and began calling it Greenwich Street Jewelers. So there you go. That was long. Sorry. The other ones will be shorter, I promise.
No, it's great.
So yeah, this is just some shots of my sister and I working. We started creating our own pieces a few years back, and so we're working on some trois et moi rings, and we have maintained a shop. I think, we're probably one of the only jewelry stores in New York City that has a full service shop on the premises. We employ 3 jewelers, a master jeweler and 2 bench jewelers, and we still do the same jewelry work that our father did, and it's really been important to us to maintain that kind and that level of service in jewelry. So we do same things, repairs, restyling, custom, at all different levels. So if you have a broken chain or you need pearls restrung or anything like that, we will do that for you. If you have an antique piece that's been around 100 years, we'll fix that for you. So that's a really important part of the business. This is in front of our new store, and it's our new family. So it's all of our staff, whom we love and very much, and my sister and I, and this was on our opening day when we opened the store, opening party.
I love the energy of your team in that photo.
Yeah,
It's
we love
everything.
our team.
Yes.
And, one of the things that I guess we wanted to show with these images is that we love Jewelry Week. But also that we were really excited to have a space where we could do events and bring people together in New York City for all different kinds of reasons. This happened to be a Jewelry Week event from last year that we did with Muzo and the Here We Are program. But it's really was a dream of ours to have a space that was big enough to bring people in and have fun, educate, and just come together.
And the picture on the left is from the night that Jennifer and her sister won the GEM Awards.
That it is. And this is our family now. Our father passed. And this is Christina's husband, Matt, who is also in the business. So still a family business.
So that brings us to storytellings with Lorraine. She's going to turn around so she can see. How good are these pictures, you guys?
Okay, so I'm going to say that I am a organized hoarder. I keep just enough memories that I need. So the left, my left on this side.
The
Where we
slide
gonna
got
go?
messed up, so I'm going to I'll flash back to it
Okay.
quickly, but then I don't want
So-
to put it up.
You have to go
I
back to this
know,
one.
but
This is the
okay.
origin here. So this is a poster contest I won second place in the second grade. Michael King won the first place. And we were the top 2. I was always like the top, like battling somebody for the top, right? This is when I knew I wanted to be a professional artist. That was it. Nothing else.
Amazing.
And I became a illustrator, professional illustrator, after I graduated from FIT. This is a dorm picture. And during my junior year of school at FIT, I started tinkering around with pliers and wires and beads. And then when I graduated from college, I started working with leather. And I hit the streets because I needed to pay my rent. And somebody took this picture. I don't remember who it was, but thank goodness, because it's the only documented image I have of me in the streets of Soho in 1998.
Do you have any of those pieces, Lorraine?
I do, yeah. hmm Remember, I'm an organized hoarder where I need to be, not where I don't need to be. Then this image here is me at my first bench. It was the rickety bench, the worst bench on the planet. I couldn't afford an expensive bench. I think I paid like $50 or $60 for it. I got it at Metalliferous. People remember Metalliferous, right? And I still have that flex shaft. I still use it. It's never, ever had an error. And I'm working on my Astro cuffs that I'm going to actually put out next year officially for the first time. I'm wearing one now. And this was the beginning of my fabulous life. I had locks there. I cut it off, shaved my head, grew an afro, and the rest is history. Now we have modern day. That's me in my studio. That bench, that whole setup, I bought when I created a custom piece for Erykah Badu. I created these brass wings, and I invested into my business with that money, all of it. Then we have the open heart that's sold at Greenwich Street Jewelers. And this is at the bench. The setters drilled the holes. I went to just make sure everything's okay. And then we have the final piece. And it's my favorite piece. I wear it every day. I used to make those by hand. I've probably made like thousands of them. And this is now one of my first production pieces, so I'm really proud of it.
As you should be.
Oh,
Yes.
big moment. Shout out to NYC Jewelry Week. I've been a part of Here We Are since 2019, and this was a billboard image of me. The image is by Alon Semich, and very proud moment, you know, to start my business with $23 and to now be on a billboard. I mean, it took, you know, almost 3 decades later, but we're here.
That's the New York story, you guys. That's it. And we'll talk more about Here We Are in a little bit, too. Tom. So Tom's partner of Oscar Heyman, as I mentioned.
First, I just want to say welcome, everybody, and thank you for coming. It's an honor to be a participant again in the panel New York Jewelers Week. We are a oldest firm here, I'm assuming, founded in 1912 here in New York City. Go back a little, and 80 West 40th Street probably was our second or third location. Our original location was on Maiden Lane, today Wall Street, but 100 years ago it was the center of the jewelry industry in New York, which a lot of people don't know. And over the decades it has moved uptown to be centered on 47th Street. The picture on the right, we just chose some images that might be interesting. Does anyone know what the symbol is? That's this, go ahead.
The middle one?
This,
Is it the Guggenheim?
no.
Oh, that's
That's a symbol from the 1964 World's Fair that we were a participant in. And I can't remember what it's called, the sphere and the something. There are two names for them. And so we had done an ad at that point. I'm sorry, the 1939 World's Fair. The 1939 World's Fair, sorry. We were in both World's Fair. Next slide, I guess. So this is a picture. The company was founded by my grandfather and 2 brothers, the oldest 3 boys of 9 kids, 8 of whom worked in the company for their careers. My grandfather is the third from the left. I don't remember him as being shortest. I always thought of him as being quite a big guy. But the striped pants is Oscar. He was the second oldest, but he was the consummate salesman of the group. My grandfather ran our factory. Next. This is in 2017. The Boston Museum of Fine Art, 2007, bought the brooch on the cover of this book that we had made in the 1930s and approached us and wanted to know if they could write a book about our history, which they did. And this was at the Rizzoli bookstore. It was the launch of the book when it came out in 2017. In the center is my cousin Adam. He's my dad's youngest cousin, so he's second generation of the firm. On the left is my brother Louis, and myself on the right. And the 3 of us today run the company. And these are pictures from, these are pictures from our shop. We've always been very vertically integrated, so we alloy our own metal, we make our own designs, we make our own castings, we travel literally around the world buying gemstones, and then we make jewelry in our shop in New York City. And so these are 3 pictures from the shop. The one on the bottom here is a lapidary's bench cutting rubies for an invisible brooch.
You could walk into Oscar Heyman and learn everything you need to know about the jewelry industry in one place. It's the most incredibly fascinating piece of New York, I feel like, for the jewelry industry. And it's really an honor to have Tom on the stage with us today, because the family, what they've done and what they've continued to do in New York, and for the industry and the globe is incredible. So congrats to you.
A little kind of interesting history. Before the Great Depression, there were lots of factories like ours. We had, I think, about 100 craftsmen going into the Depression. And there was a center for jewelry manufacturing in New York and also in Newark, New Jersey. And after the Depression, essentially Newark disappeared for the most part, probably with the exception of Kremitz. And most of the, or many of the factories in New York had closed and then started reopening again.
Incredible.
Oops.
That
And
takes us to
now for
Severine.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. This was really interesting.
So Severine, you gave us this beauty. Tell us about your story, Severine.
So my parents were French, and they met in New York. And my mother was a model, and my dad had won a scholarship for Harvard. So that's how they met. They moved back to France, but as early as my teens, I came back every summer because my godmother lives in New York, and this is my first internship. I think I'm around 15, and in my floral period.
But gold hoop period.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it was pretty obvious to me, early, obviously I still have a French accent, but I was bilingual, also in my teens. So I was really fascinated and interested by New York because of my family history and also because of my internships every summer. I loved the energy. So I ended up going to school in France, but I moved here, right after school. So that's a cute little souvenir. So here is my engagement ring. And so this is basically a project, when I designed, when I looked for my engagement ring, I found a designer whose name is Julie Lamb, and we, designed together this ring, which is inspired by the Chrysler Building. I don't know if you can see, some of the details. It's in platinum, and it's gorgeous, and it has a Marquise center stone. And that was, 5 years ago. And since then, Julie, I think he's very inspired, in her jewelry. She didn't do that many engagement rings, but now she does much more. And she is inspired by, the architecture of New York. And here are two new rings that she's designed, recently. One is inspired by the Empire State Building on top. And then the second one is the Rockefeller Center. And, there's a lot more rings in the collection that are inspired by iconic buildings, like the Statue of Liberty, that is super cool. So for people that have a connection with New York, couples more and more like to have, to customize their engagement ring with details of, their story, their love story, or places, where they met. So it's a way for people to connect maybe to, a location, a building that is very New York. So I like this idea. So my document, originally I come from print, I was doing print and then digital. And now, I'm really into trying to tell stories on video, on film. So this project, Romancing New York, is something new that I, just started, which is a documentary series to celebrate, because I just realized I'm a Parisian, but I've been a New Yorker longer than I have been a Parisian, and I have a connection with New York, and it's such a unique city. I don't know if I could live anywhere else in the United States, because it's such a unique city. You can walk everywhere. It's very cosmopolitan. The energy is amazing. It's just so unique. And I just wanted to see the connection, because there's a lot of proposals and engagements that are happening in New York. And a lot of movies, that are, romantic comedies that are happening in New York. And so I just wanted to find out why people think New York is romantic, because when you look at it, it's, from a New Yorker perspective that's been there for a long time, it's not the prettiest city, compared to Paris, where I'm from, for example, or, you don't have, it's not, picturesque like nature, but people connect to New York, and the reason, which we found out in the documentary is, that anything is possible, including some forbidden love, that has been forbidden in the past, that is, where New Yorkers have no judgment, and they're very open to any way of life. They're not going to judge, you for who you love or where you're from. And, so there's a lot of connection to that, and also, the possibilities for a better life in general, and, a love life in particular.
So I put these pictures up as well of you filming.
Yes, it's me filming. So we're at Marla Aron's showroom here. And it's just, there's a connection to jewelry because jewelry celebrates love, like celebrates meaningful relationships. There's a lot of other relationships, like family relationships, that can be celebrated with jewelry, but it's still, like the engagement ring or the promise, like of, that you make to somebody with either a pendant or, a promise ring that is, that person is special. So jewelry is very, important as a way to celebrate, committed relationships. And though Marla does have a few rings that are, engagement rings, she also has what's called a dime ring. That's a ring that you can open and personalize with hand engraved details and, of course, messages. But the hand engraving, for people that are getting married or getting engaged is so, like there was a ring where the first pizza place, like the first theater where they went. There's you can make jewelry that's very special and unique. And also in New York, you're going to find the traditional engagement rings, with the solitaires and, like the, but also, things that are more unique. And so, jewelers in New York are kind of trendsetters that way, because what's going to work in New York usually is also, going to be something that people are looking for in other places in the country or in all over the world, because everybody looks at New York for fashion and also for jewelry.
Tell everybody in the audience about Propose 2. For anybody who doesn't know about it, because you've always been a trend setter in a lot of different spaces, and I felt like you were one of the first to come out with this concept, and you did such an incredible thing for the industry in the way that we talk about relationships.
Well, basically, there was, a lot of women empowerment talk like 5 years ago, and and also behind the scene, I talk with a lot of women, in private messages or because they have questions. And, there's this open secret that some women pay for their engagement rings or for part of it or decide on the budget. And sometimes some women were proposing first to their partner, men or women, but, like they were proposing first because they had a career and they felt empowered to do it. So the problem is that, they wouldn't tell these stories because there was a stigma, and there's still a stigma in some, cultures, about it, to share these stories. So what we started is a community of women that were planning to propose or that had proposed in the past. And at the beginning, when I launched, like the Instagram page, it was really hard for me to find 2 or 3 people willing to share their stories because of the stigma. Now I think we since then, and because of the community, which made it all right, like for these women to share their stories, I think we've shared 1,500 stories since then. And every week, I get some sent to, of women that are proposing, and these stories are amazing because the guys love it. Like it's you always think, oh, he should be the one doing it. It's going to make him uncomfortable, and I'm sure in some relationships, that's still the case. But in general, like if they feel that they're equal in the relationship, which most millennials do, is that they have no problem with the women proposing first or proposing back also sometimes proposing.
Terrific. So if we could talk a little bit about the challenges before we talk about the opportunities, because I know there are a million more opportunities than there probably are challenges of doing business in New York. Obviously, we've seen that you all have long legacies in New York, and it's important that you have your business here and that you live here. But what are some of the challenges that come from being a business owner in this amazing city of ours? To anyone on the floor?
I mean, there are a number of challenges really being anywhere. One in New York is the expense for rent, the expense for services, the challenge in commuting for your staff. It's not easy, which we all do. At the moment, one of the challenges is for us is finding craftsmen. Everybody I know is looking for craftsmen, skilled craftsmen. That's...
Would you say that New York had a lot more people, a lot of those craftsmen move out post-COVID, that it's a greater struggle here in New York than?
It's unquestionably harder to find craftsmen today than pre-COVID, 100%. Not really sure why. but it is more difficult to find craftsmen today.
Can I add on to that?
Yes, please.
I think I agree with that. And as an independent jeweler, that I didn't have family, I just started doing it. Looking for the right craftsman for your pieces is very challenging. If you don't have a network, if you're not a part of a network, you have to kind of do trial and error. The first time I ever worked with a contractor was a guy that he didn't make anything. He was just like the middleman. So he was charging me certain prices, and he made a mistake one day, and that was the best thing that could have happened to me. He made a mistake, finished the ring, he engraved it in the wrong place, he had to repolish it. Every time you polish, it's like skin, you're taking off dead skin, you're taking off metal. So now the ring is bigger, and it was like a size like 5. Now it's bigger. So I had to cut the ring down, make it smaller, re-engrave it. It just changed my design. And he fought with me. I said, I think I should be refunded. He didn't want to refund it. He started making excuses, and I feel like, you know what? I'm going to hit the streets, and I'm going to find other people. So I do still make many things in my bench in my home studio, but I also work with a small team in the 47th Street Diamond District, and I've been working with them for 10 years. And we grow together because some of the jewelers that work in the district, they're used to like very traditional things. So a lot of us here, we're like art jewelers. We're creating things with a point of view. So they get to learn from me, and they get to learn new techniques because now they have to use their skill and figure it out, or vice versa. I have to train them, like this is how this needs to be made. So we get to learn and grow together, and we celebrate at the end of the year. We have a Christmas party. It's fun, like you develop a family union with your team away from home.
I would add that I think that one of the opportunities of New York also is one of the challenges, and that is that there are a lot of people. That seems like a very good thing because you think your people are going to find you. But I think exposure for any independent business is always something that you have to work at. And, from the very beginning, when I came into the business, you mentioned that I had a marketing degree. At that time, it was sort of pre-internet or very early days. And, we couldn't afford an ad in the New York Times or a New York Magazine. It was just not achievable for us. And so really having to think outside of the box, and I think that still continues today. There were things that we tried because they were very cheap and they ended up working out well for us. But, when you're in a neighborhood, our store is in Tribeca, getting people to come to you from uptown, right? To see, you might be a great store for them, you might have services for them, designers that they love, or that they might have a great experience, but getting people to kind of move out of their comfort zones, even in a city where access seems quite easy, in terms of subways and, cabs and Ubers and all of that. And then also just the expense of marketing here, creating really good content, really beautiful imagery, all of that is also very expensive, and wanting to use that to let people know who you are, what you do, and then sometimes feeling like it's not really falling on the eyes and ears of the people that you want it to. So I think that that's something that I'd add.
You've always set a very high standard for yourself too with the imagery, and you're not taking selfies in your store. That's your only
sometimes
imagery.
we are.
I know those are good too. Actually, you should follow them on social if you're not already. They do a wonderful series of video too. And Grace, shout out to Grace in the audience, who works with Jennifer. So, Severine, anything else to add on that?
I think, with my French perspective, even if it's really hard sometimes because, yes, of the cost and, space, the cost of space. And I think, if you work hard and there's a hustle in New York, that can, make you, succeed even, when it's hard, so. And I think, in other countries, for example, if I compare it to France, it's harder, like they don't make it easy, if you're thinking out of the box, it's much more, you go to that special school, that's these schools, and then you get these jobs. And here, and it's, more in New York than in anywhere in the country. If you work hard, you can, achieve whatever dream you have. And I think it's still true even in time of crisis, even during COVID, even, like now, it's still true.
Always a rosy optimist. I love that about you. As a Midwesterner, I appreciate it. A New York Midwesterner, not a real Midwesterner. I've been here for more than 20 years, so I'm like, I need a hybrid. Yeah, thanks. So let's talk about your most iconic New York moments in business. Is there something that you all have such different stories. I'm sure there's been, I've watched something pretty amazing happen in your store this week that probably could be in your top with Brooke Shields coming into the store. Things like that. What are some of those iconic New York moments that are part of your jewelry story? Erykah Badu.
Oh, yeah, can I tell you that story?
Yeah, tell us that story. So
Erykah Badu will always forever be a part of my origin story. So went to FIT, used to go to Brooklyn, go to parties. Like, I love house music and dance music, and so I always partied all over the city. Never drugs, never did drugs, but partied as in dancing, right? And I used to go to this poetry event almost every Sunday called the Sunday Tea Party. And it's actually where I met my husband, too. And I had discovered Erykah Badu in Vibe magazine. There was an article called The Next, and I saw her image. And remember, I'm an illustrator, so I'm very good at painting and drawing likenesses. So when I saw her face, I was like, oh my God, I got to draw her. So I had this project in school at FIT at the time, and they said, go to a magazine and find a celebrity, and you're going to do a pointillism image of them. And what I loved about her at the time is like she had like bags under her eyes and just the eyes and the head wrap and just this interesting look. So I did this amazing image that's put to the side. Then I have another moment where I'm shopping at this record store that gets all of the pre-released CDs, and I would go there and buy CDs and found her CD. No one I knew who she was. I was the first to introduce Erykah Badu to my community of friends. So I just knew, like, okay, I'm going to just score more brownie points with my friends. And had no clue I'd ever meet her. It was just like, okay, everyone loved the music. Then we have a third moment where somebody tells me out of the friend group, said, Erykah has been going to Tea Party, and she's going to be there. You should, like, give her a copy of that picture you did. So I went to Tea Party the next Sunday and waited very patiently until everything was done, approached her and I said, hey, love your work. I did this really cool image of you. I'd love to bring you a color copy of it. Kinko's back in the day was like the move, right? So anyway, she said, sure, come to my place. She still has that place in Brooklyn, and brought her a copy. It's still hanging on her wall in her place in Brooklyn. And she invited me to one of her shows, went to the show with a friend, had a great time, thought that was it, right? Then a friend of mine who did fashion, Shaka Given, said, can you send her an image, like go to her apartment and put it under her door? I did a patchwork denim dress for her. So I went to Brooklyn, didn't know where I was going, got lost, put the piece under the door in a FedEx folder pack, and put some extra color copies of some other art that I did. She called Ashaka, and Ashaka became her personal assistant and made her pink dress for the Grammys. So I kind of always stayed in proximity, and a year or two later, I started, making more jewelry, and now Ashaka returned the favor back to me and introduced me to Andre 3000 and said, you're doing leather cuffs, just do some sketches. Never did sketches of anything. I did some sketches, went to the meeting because she did the colorful pants in the Rosa Parks video. And Shaka says, oh, this is Lorraine. She's got some great stuff. Check it out. And he's like, okay, I'd like this leather one with the bone. And it was my first custom order. It's from Andre 3000. He wore it on tour. Erica saw the cuffs and said, "Hey, Lorraine, I'd like some cuffs." So the first set of cuffs I did for her was a fish cuffs, like a wrap cuff. And I went to Kaufman's Leather, and they had like recyclable leather for cheap, like $1 a pound or something like that. And found this piece, and it reminded me of a marine scene because she's a Pisces, and I love astrology. I love all this mystical stuff, right? So I had a wood burner because I did a wood burning project in high school, carved wood. I did so many different types of things in the past. So pulled out the wood burner and then burned like little fishies and this like little, bubbles and things like that. So when you open the cuff, it looks like a fish, and you wrap it around, and at the end of the tail, I put Badu. And that was like the beginnings of, adding her name. And besides what Baba Haru did with the Ankh ring, it became a thing. And she wore that into the ground. Like she wore it for years. She wore it to the Grammys. She wore it on tour. And she said, I want a whole suite. So I made her all these different types of cuffs, Kepra cuff, scarab cuffs. She loves the Kemetic science. And then years went on, and we started working with silver, and then we did the brass wings. And so, we had a lot of epic moments together, and it really helped inform my future. Because to be honest with you, I'd love to do jewelry, but I didn't know I was going to be a jeweler or a designer or be a thing. It was just like an extra fun thing to add on to the drawing and painting. So that's my origin story with Erykah Badu.
But talk about taking a risk, right? Taking a risk, being willing to put yourself out there, and taking advantage of opportunities when they come to you, and being willing to say yes.
Can I add one more thing?
Please.
So, met so many other people through her, and that's important too, to connect with the networks of people that you meet.
Love that. Tom?
Different kind of story, but in 1969, there was a large pear-shaped diamond, 69-carat pear-shaped diamond, auctioned off that Cartier bought, and sold it shortly thereafter to Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. And we were very close to Cartier. Actually, great uncle Oscar worked at Cartier as the first non-French craftsman before our company was established. So they were always a really good, close client for us. And and this is all company lore, if you will. It took place on a Friday. The salesman Friday morning calls, the Cartier salesman, and there's a debate. My Uncle Marvin says he took the call. My cousin Adam says he took the call, but I kind of believe Marvin. Took the call, and the salesman said, Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor have decided they're buying the diamond. They're going to go out, they're going to shop, they're going to have a lunch, they're going to come back in a couple of hours, and they'd like to make a necklace, and we want you to design a necklace. Can you have some necklace designs here in a couple of hours? So, Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor kind of are American royalty, 1969. And so we stopped all our designers, and we worked on some necklaces, and my uncle ran over, we're only a couple of blocks away, to Cartier and gave the designs, and the salesman calls back at the end of the day to say, congratulations, I have some good news. They picked, design C. I don't remember which number it was. But the challenge is that we need it finished next Thursday. So this is a necklace with diamonds all the way around, all pear shapes, all matched, slight gradation. And essentially we stopped, every craftsman in our shop, and we worked all Saturday and all Sunday, and we worked, 12-hour days or 15-hour days. And on the following Thursday at lunchtime, my uncle called and said, it's ready. And the salesman says, great, I'll meet you on the corner. So this is a New York story part. I'll meet you on the corner in an hour. And my uncle's there waiting with the necklace in a folder in a briefcase or something. And a cab pulls up, just a regular yellow cab. And the salesman's in the cab and beckons to my uncle. And so my uncle gets in the cab, and they drive 2 or 3 blocks, and he shows him the necklace and hands it off. And it's a red light, and he jumps out. And the salesman then continues to Kennedy, flies to Monaco. The next morning gives it to Elizabeth Taylor, who wore it that evening at Princess Grace's 40th birthday. So there was a real schedule for that necklace. But just the transfer in the cab, I think, is terrific.
And everyone Google that image when you leave here and have cell service again. But for sure, an amazing New York moment.
She was on the cover of Paris Match magazine wearing it, and then a presenter at the Oscars a couple of months later.
Amazing. Again, the ability to say yes, take risk, and then the ultimate New York moment of being in the back of a random taxi cab, jumping in. How much was it valued at that time?
The diamond was 69 carats, and there were probably 50 carats of diamonds in the necklace. So It's a big, important necklace.
Amazing. Jennifer?
Different kind of story. I think that having Brooke in the store was amazing. But I think for me, and I probably could speak for my sister too, opening a store in New York City has been the most amazing New York story for our brands and our company, and for my sister and I as the current owners, and being able to, decide where we wanted the store. We really wanted to be in Tribeca. We looked for years for a space, finally found one, and then it took us 5 years to get the store open. But one of the things that I love about the story of the space that we're in, the store is in the second oldest cast iron building in New York City. And there is a history of this particular building. It housed a historic family, and then when they decamped for uptown, the store sort of went commercial. And Reed Street, which is where our store is in Tribeca, was actually the center of a very small silversmithing part of the city at that time. And this is about the mid-1800s. And there was a jewelry company that worked out of our building. And that just felt very like kismet when we read that. It was obviously after we'd signed the lease. And that just felt like a real kind of, just like a little New York blessing. You found the right spot after we'd looked and looked and looked. When we designed the place,
Her story while she talks.
yeah, it's not the full facade, but it's a really incredible building. It was completely renovated, not by us, before we moved in. So the cast iron front is just incredible. But, the work that we did was to create the interior. And so working on the interior, of course, was really exciting because we got to, the one thing that we wanted was for the space itself to feel very much, to have these moments that were inspired by New York. So, for example, we worked with an artist to create an East Village-based artist who's kind of like a staple in the scene there, to create an incredible piece of art in the store. There's a mural in the back that actually was made with stencils that were created from the subway grates. No, this is the old store, actually. And so, just being able to really sort of put our stamp of New York in the interior as well. And just one other thing, and that is that after we'd opened the space, our mother was moving and had found a sketch pad of our father's, and he had passed, didn't get to see the store open. And our space, when you walk in, what you notice first is there's these repeating arches. You're walking through arches to move through the space. They're also along the walls. And in this sketchbook, my father had sketched out, because we'd signed the lease before he died, he sort of sketched out his ideas for what he thought this space should look like. We'd never seen it before. And in his imagery, and there's an Instagram post all about this, and shows the sketches, there were repeating arches throughout the entire store. There was a door that looks just like this iron door that we put onto our VIP room. There was brick, and we've got this beautiful old brick from the original building. So, for me, New York is magical, and these moments happen, and they just kind of let you know, yeah, you're in the right place. Yes, you're doing the right thing. Just keep going no matter how hard it gets. If there are challenges, like Severine said, you just keep going.
Incredible. Severine, your New York story.
So I think, you know, for me, interaction with strangers is very New York, you know, like, because, you know, like, there's no, you know, people talk to you. Sometimes people just bump into you in the street, but also you have, you know, like, these really interesting interactions with people you don't know. And so in my job, what it means, I don't know if you know, but proposals have become like a big thing in America. So you have people called proposal planners that can help you plan the proposal, hire a photographer, find the location. And it sounds a little bit silly, but in New York, you know, especially for people that are not from New York, it's helpful because, you know, you sometimes you need permits, sometimes you need to know when it's going to be rush hour, you know, hard to get there, you know, like, etc. But there's still a lot of spontaneous proposals. And what I really like, you know, when we interact with people on social media is you have, you know, strangers that are capturing proposals. So they're capturing proposals in the park or, you know, like at the marathon, at the recent marathon, or on Times Square. And then, you know, they share the videos, and all of us sleuths on the internet are trying to find the couple because, you know, like, maybe they don't have souvenirs or memories of these, you know, proposals. And it works. So, you know, we've, you know, like, we found couples that had no idea, you know, that their proposal had been captured. And because of, you know, strangers being a little nosy, but, you know, like, also, you know, like, because of the, you know, like, how New York is, you know, oh, that's exciting. This is so New York. You know, it's a proposal. That's so much fun. So we've been able, you know, through, you know, like, our, you know, audience and pages to, you know, find these couples, and they're very excited to find, you know, like, that somebody has captured their story. So I think, you know, it's a typical New York moment because it's, you know, strangers who don't know you just said, you know, like, maybe, you know, like, they want to see these pictures, they want to see this video, and let's find them on the internet.
That's very cool. Very cool. I'm going to turn, round of applause. Absolutely. Questions and answers? Do you have enough time for any questions in the audience? Raise your hand, I'll call on you. In the back? You'll have to use your best projecting voice because they don't have an extra mic.
I am a jewelry designer, and I've only been doing this a few years. And I was wondering, you know, just like any other art, there's so many ways to focus and ways to be an expert in specialty for a designer. And I was wondering, because you have such unique perspectives, how you defined a successful jewelry designer. Is it just about longevity, or I know it's not just about profit, but...
Do you mean a successful career in jewelry design or a piece that's designed?
Yes, a career.
I think expertise comes with time. You know, I think that Lorraine and I talk about this a lot, actually, because we're both kind of the same age, and we've been doing what we've been doing for around 20 years. And, you know, there is a success that can happen very quickly, but it's not the norm. And I think that expertise takes time. And I say that because I think we're so conditioned to want something to happen for us right away. And this is not a new thing. You know, everybody's impatient. We all want to be great at what we set out to do and to have success and achievements. And there's nothing wrong with that. Ambition is a really good thing, and drive is a really good thing. But there's something about giving yourself the time to really cultivate your art, your work, whatever that is. You have to make mistakes, you have to have failures, you have to have setbacks to really know to even sometimes define what success is, right? Like, you're learning as you go along. You might think that one thing is going to be, you know, what makes you feel successful, and then you get there and you're kind of like, this ain't quite it, you know? And so, yeah, I don't know if that's helpful at all, but I think, you know, also patience and also giving yourself a break, like understanding that it, you know, even though we're in a world of instant gratification, really good things take time.
And it changes over time. I mean,
you look at someone sitting even on the stage with Lorraine, immensely successful, right? She's had a long tenured career in the jewelry industry, very successful by any means. But at the same time, talking to her backstage, I'm like, she's blowing my mind because I can't wait to see what 2024 is going to bring for her, right? So it's
on.
like, yeah.
Can I add something? So I get asked that question a lot. I think my career is very unique, right? Because I didn't plan to be a jewelry designer, it just happened. And I didn't have a community. I didn't have a network of people. I mentioned like Metalliferous. I used to shop there all the time when it was open, and I would see other jewelers or jewelers of color, designers rather, and we didn't even know how to talk to one another. It was just we'd see each other like, oh, do we say something? Like, and then social media came into play, and you start to learn people. For me, I've always been a fan of other designers. When I started, I have this big like binder with just tears from designers that I love, and just love to look at the quality because I wanted to go to school, like I wanted to go to GIA for jewelry design, but I couldn't afford it. So I had to I can't go to school. I have to just learn, and teach myself. And every time I'd make some money, I'd say, okay, what new equipment I need, what new tools do I need? I didn't get into fine jewelry until 2011. And how that happened was my friend Kristen met this amazing guy in Denmark and fell in love. He came to New York. He took a liking to me as a friend. He said, Lorraine, I want to propose. Can you help me? So that was my opportunity to say, you know what, yeah, let me make it. So I figured it out. I knew how to do wax carving. So, interviewed him, got inspiration based on how they met, did a vision board, got to the bench, did the wax, and it changed my life. Like, Kristen and Morton changed my life. Like, I'm like holding back tears right now. I don't know where I would have gone next if I didn't get into fine jewelry. It blew my mind, and it continues to blow my mind. It's so endless, So I agree with Jennifer. Just keep moving forward, stay inspired, challenge yourself to create. Whether you just do renderings as a designer or you're at the bench, like challenge yourselves when you don't want to do it, when you don't feel inspired. And if you don't feel inspired, again, like Jennifer said, like go get inspired. Go out, go dancing, go look at nature, have a good conversation with a friend, like whatever it is that brings inspiration. I have conversations that spark something. I don't always get inspired by a thing. It's like an energy or a spirit, or I can listen to music and something like comes to me. So just stay inspired and keep growing. And, it could happen soon, it could happen later, but it's going to happen. And lastly, I'm going to say, I have a friend of mine who's a musician that I create pieces for. And she's not super famous, but she does shows all the time. She always puts out new albums. She looks amazing. She's like, I'm living the dream. And I'm living the dream every day. So if you're in it and you're doing it, you're living the dream, and remind yourself of that. And don't compare yourself to anybody else's journey. Your journey is yours.
Love that. We have time for one more question. Yes, go ahead.
So I'm actually a second generation supplier, and I recently supply second generation legacy sapphire supplier from
Okay.
Sri, and I've just recently moved to New York. It's been a month now.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Hello. And during the month, I basically met with other suppliers who've been in New York for decades, if not generations. And it's very the diamond district's very cutthroat, and there's a lot of different material that's flowing. We work with finer quality salon sapphires, but then there's other people working with titanium diffuse and beryllium treatment, and sometimes it's hard to find people who are interested in your product. So how do you find people who are great?
Any feedback? And Tom.
You need to. want to say continue doing what you're doing is kind of knocking on doors and listening and being in events like this and meeting people. And it's hard to develop a network. You know, you could get the industry newsletters and the magazines and really just look at who the manufacturers are and cold call a little bit. You could join AGTA, American Gem Trade Association, is one. You could join JA.
Yeah, talk to Regina. You're sitting right next to her. She's our director. Okay, good. Thanks, Tom.
And you really, you know, it's often at the beginning it's very difficult to get your foot yourself established, and then, but if you have a good customer, ask them if they can recommend you to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, referrals are great if you can do that.
It's all about networking too, being in the room with the right people. There's a gentleman standing at the back door who's one of our next speakers. Dave Bindra
He deserves a round of applause.
Yeah, he really does. He's the man. Stick around and hear from him later. He's our next panel. He's the reason we're going to hop off this stage, but he's also a gem dealer. He's incredible. What he's built on social alone and his following. I mean, talk about the best that there is. It's just being in the right place at the right time. To be able to ask that one question that might help open a door, you never know. Sorry, Dave, didn't mean to put you on the spot, but you're standing there. But it's all about, you know, making these connections. So you're doing the right things. You're here. So congratulations and welcome.
I'm going to add one more thing. You know, there are also organizations that aren't quite so specific, like WJA, where you'll be in a room with, that's Women's Jewelry Association, where you'll be in a room with people from different aspects of the industry. BIGC is another one that people from different aspects of the industry, because, you know, I mean, I know that gem dealers like to trade and stuff, right? But you're also looking for people in manufacturers, maybe retailers, designers. So you're going to meet those people by, you know, being in mixed company as well. And back to my first statement, like patience, right? Like you said, you've been here a month. You know, like let's not be so hard on ourselves.
I agree.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
Can I just add to Jennifer?
Yes.
Not on the panel, sorry. I was going to mention WJA, and the reason I was going to mention that is you may come from a generational business or not, but for a young woman in the industry, what you want is other women to whom you can ask questions without fear of being considered inexperienced. She doesn't know what she's doing. Like, you need that. So whether you find it from WJA, which is how most of us did, or not, find a woman that can mentor you in that regard. I don't know who your family is, but I would venture saying, you know, find a woman that will understand where you are in your life, because we've all been there.
And that's Women's Jewelry Association. Okay. Unfortunately, we're out of time, so I want to give a huge thank you, another round of applause to my amazing panel.
Thank you, Amanda, our amazing moderator.
Thank you. Everyone will be around for a couple of minutes if anybody has any additional questions. So I know that we could sit here and hear from them all day. So thank you again for attending today, and best of luck to Bella, JB, and the rest of the New York City Jewelry Week team the rest of the way.